Welcome to the Course Creators Podcast with course design expert Jenny Rice. Whether you're an experienced creator or just starting out, this podcast helps build courses that resonate, transform, and make an impact. Each episode, we'll explore strategies and tips to help you create engaging, successful courses. Let's dive in.
Hi, this is Jenny Rice from Course Creators Podcast. I'm so very excited about our guest today. We got Vijay Lakshman, who is a serial entrepreneur. So welcome, Vijay.
Thank you. I'm pretty excited to be here.
Yeah. Why don't you start tell a little bit more about your background and what you do, because you're doing some really exciting things right now.
I was lucky enough to not go to med school. I got accepted, and I always thought I would tell my whole life, if when you're from a family in Asia, you're given really two choices, like doctor, lawyer, or engineer. And so I had been on my way to med school, but then that summer before I was going to attend med school, I got a job at a video game company, strangely, a company called Bethesda Softworks. And I became a video game designer. So what I do is I was a game designer for a long time. Then I, after about 30 years of that, I transitioned into investment banking and options trading and investing as a angel investor. And now, in an effort to regain some of my karma, I have been spending the last 10 years building software to help children who have various forms of neurodivergency, and who also may just want, or people, adults and children who want to just use the kind of fast learning that games provide, the experiential learning that games provide through constant, practice, a chance to get ahead in whatever chosen field they want. I think that's the future. Yeah.
That's so great that you've have such a diverse background, and now you're using all those skills to put them together to help other people. And, I know my son would love to be a video game designer. It's like a dream job for a lot of kids, I'm sure. But you can take that creativity, but that technical experience, and now from what I understand, and you could explain a little bit more about your new app that you're putting together, because it's pretty exciting what you're doing. So why don't you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I guess maybe it starts with, I was inspired because I found out very late in life that I was on the spectrum. And of course, none of my friends were surprised. They were, oh yeah, we knew. But I was like, I didn't know. So, and I think that made my life a lot more difficult in ways that it didn't need to be. Because most of the things you do in life involve interacting with other people. And that interaction part for me was difficult. It was difficult because what my brain told me I was seeing was not what was actually happening. And that misinterpretation of social cues is the thing that I think puts a wall up between, a person and the outside world. And so traversing that chasm became a very difficult thing when I dating myself here by just saying when I was 50, I found out. And so I already had 50 years of, doing it the wrong way, of interpreting things the wrong way. But what amazed me and what got me into wanting to use games to help was, in 7 more years, I'm 57 now, I don't, except for a few cues that if you have experience with neurodivergency or people on the spectrum, there's really, I don't think I exhibit nearly as much as I did, during my normal life. And I think of this as like learning your superpower. I just was really, really slow at learning your superpower, and so I want to make it easier for kids by creating games now that let them experience, well, they get a virtual AI pet. In this case, we're starting with dragons, because dragons are cross-cultural, and they are, they manifest themselves in so many different ways throughout everyone's different culture. And I think that they also have a lot of different ways in which you can decorate them, and you can make them unique to what you want. And there's no other dragons in real life that I have to compare them to. So they can talk if they want. They can not talk. We can do, we have a lot more freedom. that's part of what the lessons you learn as a creative developers. You want to put yourself in a place where, although everyone knows it, like what it should be, it's not. There's no laws around what it should be. Right? I can't, I can make flying monkeys, but I'd rather not, because it's harder to, like, you have to like do some things that are monkey like. Whereas the dragon, who knows what a dragon thinks or does. Anyways, these dragons listen to your day, and they then enact the problems that you feel that you face that day. They then have that as a baby dragon on their island with their friends, and in this case, you as the owner or the pet owner, you aren't the baby dragon is not teaching you. You're helping it get past those same hurdles that you faced in the day, because it was listening, and it could then create a simulation for you to practice by teaching it how to like interact with people, what they meant. I'm hoping that it'll help kids get a lot of iterative practice, and that's the goal.
Yeah, I like that they're listening is one part of it, but they're hearing what's happening to the child and reflecting back. And, as a course developer myself, an adult learning principle expert, it's like you need to really understand something to teach it to somebody else. Otherwise, you could be misinterpreting it. So for a child to be able to say, let me help you, baby dragon, whatever their name is, and what you're dealing with is that they're really getting that perspective because they've been through it themselves, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think what's amazing about what you just said is I was lucky enough, and in fact, so neurodivergency opened up a lot of doors for me that I didn't realize were opened for me at the time. My father enrolled me in martial arts because he wanted me to get discipline and not be interrupting people all the time, and not be like, mouthing off and whatever, but none of us knew it was my, I would say, not well adjusted social cues, right? That was misinterpreting when there was a pause that I could interrupt him, things like that. So, but in martial arts, what you learn is the scariest thing in the world for anyone to do, besides public speaking, I've heard, is fighting. And what the instructors, I think this is sort of uniform for all the good instructors out there. They teach you how to face that fear by essentially, putting you back into it and back into it. And after a while, you're desensitized to it, and you start realizing there's a strategy around it, and it doesn't hurt that much. It's like any other kind of play. So fear actually stops the learning. And what a goal here is giving kids a chance to practice and fail. When failure is cheap, when failure doesn't mean a whole lot, people will try again and again and again to win, because the thought of losing doesn't hurt them that much.
Right.
That's what game's secret is. That's why they're addictive, because losing doesn't cost you that much.
Right. Even though it might cost you your life in the game, you're still okay.
Exactly.
For life,
Got
right?
3 lives left.
Well, not only that, but gaming, and I know because I've studied a little bit about how children learn and the dopamine and hey, I achieved something, I did well, so it's motivational too. And we look at learning, as adults or children, is that piece of, hey, I've accomplished something, I've done something, can really motivate people to continue learning and do more and more.
I agree. And what's now amazing is, with the advent of generative AI, a lot of what I used to have to try and code with statistics, mathematical statistical models, can now be coded on the fly by the AI, because it has inputs that are coming in. All we teach it is what to look for, and then to enact very well known, like, sort of topography of these if-then statements, but much more sophisticated than that.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
What about it? Can you share with any challenges you face in putting this together, and maybe talk about understanding the needs of your audience? Because I think that's an important part. What you're doing here is, what do they really need, and how can I address that need? If you could talk more to that.
Yeah. Sure. And let me ask, just to clarify that, am I speaking to young wannabe investors? I mean, I'm sorry, entrepreneurs, or am I speaking to young wannabe champion game players?
I'm actually thinking of your audience who's going to purchase your app. So
Yes,
the
so
neurodivergent, or the neurodivergent kids, or how do you How do you identify who your audience is in order to address their needs, their problems, their concerns?
It's interesting. So for 3.5 years, I was the executive director of National Geographic, and we were very focused on kids and families. And National Geographic is a home brand. They are made to be ambassadors to the world, right? And they believe, and I agree with them, that this one planet, is all we have, right? And so to make it better is every human being's stewardship, the day they're born. And National Geographic is the one place everyone breathed the same exact air. Like it's amazing how much people got together and they just wanted to do the same thing. So we very much spent time looking at how the family dynamic works. And no surprise, mom's the captain, right? She's the one who's going to decide what's going on. So a lot of what we would do is look at what problem are we trying to solve, and then who is the enactor of the problem and who is the thing that they're doing, making a problem for, because they're different actors in this, right? And so when we were looking at kids at that time, I was really focused on kids and like trying to do good things to make a mom's day easier. And one of the things that consistently came up was a way to get kids to do their chores. And we had a lot of effort put into thinking about how to get kids to do the chores, but the solution was to speak with moms. And so I guess the thing I would tell you is the first thing you should do is, when you've identified the problem, it's rare that the problem is also with the person who is going to be enacting and interacting with that problem. It's usually someone on the periphery who has to deal with the outcome of the collateral damage that happens when that problem's going on. And so with these kids messing up the room and then not cleaning it up or not taking the trash out or not, whatever it is, right? We would use our games to create an in-game valueless currency. Currency was only used to buy things that are in-game. It didn't cost the parents, real money to do that. And what we would do is we created a small app to let the parents attach in-game rewards to out-of-game accomplishments. And so the kids could see on their phone that if they cleaned their room by a certain time, they would get 20 joules. If they did it by a later time, they'd get 10 joules. And if they didn't do it by a certain time, they would get no joules. And there's an incredibly cool diagram. I don't know if you ever bring things up where people can see stuff, but it's a podcast, so I assume not. But it's called the octalysis, and we use it for game design and development. And so any of those wannabe game programmers out there, or game developers out there, designers, look up the octalysis of game design. It's a diagram, and on top it has white hat solutions. On the bottom it has black hat solutions, so negatives and positives. And then each of the 8 quadrants, they address a basic human need. Not quite the self-actualization pyramid that you see in various Maslow,
yeah.
But like what you do see is that there are so many motivations that can be engendered through rewards or through punishment. And the reason why people get addicted to games is because 99.9% of them are engagement through rewards, not through punishment. The punishment is dying or not changing level. But since that's not going to be a painful thing because you can just go back in, again, because the iterativeness of that, you're not afraid of dying, so you will try everything and you learn better.
And you get better and get better as you go through. So I
Again,
love what you said about knowing your end user, but also knowing who is actually managing the results. And when we talk about your app specifically, it's with children and, as you said, their mothers. So you need to address both of those concerns, which is really important in what you're doing. And I want to sort of translate that for our listeners to say that when you're developing any online program or any course, you need to really know who your end users are and who's going to be interacting with that end use and to address their needs, because if you don't identify that, they're not going to play, right?
That's right.
And then the second part of this is that you said I'm going to reward them versus punish them. And we have 5 dogs. So I know in training them that rewards work much better than punishment. So it's all about that dopamine rush that you get when you do something right and you do it well and you get a reward, right?
Yeah. And what's interesting is you'd be surprised at how quickly the brain doesn't get tired of being rewarded. Like, there's no what do they call that when the nerve needs to like rest for a little bit before it can fire again. That process is very fast when it comes to rewards and very slow when it comes to punishment. Like, people don't like punishment. They don't like it for days,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a funny thing.
Yeah.
It's also interesting because in game design and game theory, you have like this optimal sort of line that would go like this. So over time, you're getting better, right, at the game. And that optimal line is straight. But because nobody is the same at all, no one follows the optimal line. And so what we have to do as game designers and how we engage kids is we used to use brute force methods, and now we use generative AI to tune the game so that it's watching the player's performance. And then as they're getting more and more right, it'll start increasing the difficulty. And then if they get a few things wrong, it'll decrease the difficulty.
Okay. To keep them motivated and on board. That's great. Yeah.
And we found every time they cross that line, that's when they.
Yeah. You thought of so many different things in this result. I'm really excited to hear how it goes. So as we end this podcast, do you have any tips for anybody else doing this type of work, whether it's an app, whether it's a game, or whether it's a course that we could share with our listeners?
Absolutely. I would tell anyone listening, and this is true not just for games or anything else, it's true for life. Show up. The people who show up, they're going to win in the end, right? Because I have met people who are incredibly successful, and it's not because they are a brilliant 180 IQ, whatever, right? It's because they're there every day. They do it and they get the job done. So if you're studying, show up for class. If you're in your job, show up, be there and be present.
Right. I can't remember which celebrity said that, but it says 90% of life is showing up.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And it's true, because if you hide or you don't, you try things, and you're going to lose out all the time, right? What is it? 100% of trying is something about failing. I forget that quote, but it was such an informed one.
Well, they have a lot of different things, but the one thing I will say that I really truly believe, showing up is part of it. But when you show up, bring your A game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you only get one chance. I've been in situations where I realized after the moment that the moment had just passed.
Yes.
I missed it.
It's too late. Yeah.
It's too late. And it's not going to come again. You might think it will because you're incredibly talented or whatever. But the true thing is to know that when you come, you got to bring that A game and be ready to strike when that moment's there, because then that's the people who win.
Yeah.
And you can't do that unless you show up, because you got to get used to it.
Yeah. So you got to show up and you got to be present, right? Because if you show up and you're asleep, it's not really showing up, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, by showing up, you can feel the ebb and flow, and you'll know when that moment comes.
Right. Yeah. And to keep at it and keep trying. Absolutely. Yeah. And
investments. Yeah. I watch these. I've now been doing this for 16, 17 years. I've had 3 exits. I've generated 3.8 billion in revenue for the games that we've done. And I can tell you, the people that I had invested, I would invest in them if they would be like, if they had this grit. It wasn't they're brilliant. It was, they were gritty. They just would keep, like, I knew there's no day they wouldn't wake up and be out there working on it. That kind of tenacity, tenacity is the capital T in getting anything done.
Yeah. I firmly believe that. When I'm looking at hiring anybody, I look at their keenness. What is their ability to want to be present and want to show up?
Moxie.
Exactly. Yeah. Because otherwise, life is too short not to want to do that. So very insightful. Good, really good feedback and really good insight. And I'm so excited about what you're doing and the value you're providing, the impact you're going to have on people. So you have to come.
Our company is Andromeda.gg. Andromeda.gg. Look us up. And we have a game already out on the Switch. Come out, and I'm excited too, and I will keep you informed of what's going on. So maybe we'll get a chance to give people an update and see how things are going.
Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be great. So thank you so much for being a guest, Vijay. It's been
Thank you
wonderful
for
having
me.
you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's great. This is Jenny Rice. Very excited with our guest today we've had. Vijay, thank you again for being here.
Thanks for listening to the Course Creators Podcast. For more insights and to connect with a community of creators, join our Course Creator channel on The Great Discovery. We offer both free and premium memberships. Check the link below. Until next time, keep creating, inspiring, and transforming lives.